What's up, everyone? Welcome to Wednesday night. It's time for Mythic Conversations. I am your host, Jeremy Gerard. I'm a Mythic Legions or a Legions collector and customizer who also has the distinct privilege of being the director of sales and marketing for Four Horsemen Studios, which means all the content that you see at the official website, sourcehorseman.com, is content that I help to bring you. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. We've got a lot to get through. It is an exciting time in the world of Legions. There's a lot happening. I had a great conversation last week with Big Dub. Got some amazing feedback. Seems like people really enjoyed our look at All-Stars 6. We'll talk a little bit about All-Star 6 tonight. Obviously, we're going to talk about the huge cosmic announcement today. And we're going to finally look at tactics figures. We're going to look at these figures that have been shipping for a few weeks now. They're in hand. To do that, I brought my friend, someone who's been on the show a number of times, and I always love having him on. Please say hello, everybody, to Mr. Curtis Akerman.
Hey, everybody.
Great. So, Curtis, thank you very much for joining Mythic Conversations again this evening.
Absolutely. It's always a good time.
So I reached out to you a few weeks ago because I knew that the tactics figures were shipping, and you for a while were, jokingly talking about tactics figures don't actually exist and we're going to get them in 2025. So I said, when you finally get these things in hand, when you finally are able to crack them open, I've got to have you on the show so we can talk about, whether or not the wait was worth it and what your impressions are. And here we are tonight. We get to do that.
Yep, we are coming to you from the future. It is 2025.
2025.
And they are here and in hand. So,
again, as I said, a lot going on in the world of Legions. Before we get into talking about the tactics figures, let's kind of go backwards a little bit. Let me bring up the voting thing here. So here's the roster for All Stars 6. Talked about this a lot last week, but I've got a new person on. Voting has been going very, very well. We've recorded a record number of votes so far for All Stars 6. We have sent out the voting email last Friday. We sent out a reminder email yesterday. I know a number of people have said they haven't gotten the email. This time of year, Curtis, it's an interesting time of year, right? Some people love All-Stars voting season. Some people absolutely hate it, correct?
Yep. I love the campaigning. I love the selection. I love the whole process.
Okay. So you were on the side of you love All-Stars season.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I very much enjoy it as well, but there is one part about All-Star season I hate.
What's that?
I hate the fact that we can only do so much to allow people to vote. A couple of years ago, actually with All-Stars 2, when that vote was done, it was done just through a simple online form where people got a link and they could go vote. And as you probably expect, the vote was wildly inaccurate because we would see overnight characters just get like 1,000 votes. People were gaming the system because even though the system was made so you could only vote once, it was really easy to work around that block and vote as many times as you wanted. So starting with All-Stars 3, we moved to this new system with SurveyMonkey, where what we do, it's very simple. And I say this so people kind of understand what we can and cannot do. We export the customer list from Store Horseman. So everyone who has either ordered from Store Horseman or signed up for the newsletter, you are on that list. We load it all into this third-party platform called SurveyMonkey. Now, that's one of the things that's interesting because I hear a lot of people say, well, I always get your emails from Store Horseman. Why wouldn't I get these? Because they're coming from two different places.
Yeah.
We pull the list from Store Horseman, but we're not sending through that actual mail system. We have to send it through this survey platform. The whole point of using it is you get an email, you click the link in the email. If you try to click it a second time after you've done the survey, that link is unique to you. It's tied into that email. So it understands if you've already done the survey that you can't do it again.
I believe it'll let you change your selections though, right? Because I think I did that last year where I went back in.
I don't think so, because I think that if you click the link a second time, it says you've already taken the survey.
Gotcha.
So the point is that all we do is load the stuff into the system and hit send. A lot of people don't understand how email actually works. The fact that, once we send it, after that point, we have no idea what happens to it. People's individual email clients, whether it's Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail or whatever, they can elect to put it in your inbox. They can decide they may say, hey, this looks like junk, but I'm not sure. Let me put it in the junk folder, the spam folder. Yeah. They may just say, you know what? We don't think this is legit. We're never even going to deliver it to the box. We're going to throw it away before they even would have a chance to see it. So in those cases, I can't give them the email again because the system won't let us just resend the email to one person. So it ties our hands a little bit to make sure that the vote is legitimate and people aren't gaming the system. We have to use the platform, but by its very nature, some people don't seem to get this email. I have some people that have been very frustrated and they've said like, oh, this is the third year in a row I haven't gotten the email. Well, that kind of points to the fact that it's you and not us, because something's going on your end that is blocking this. It's why at the start of the process, I tell people, hey, there's a process in emails called whitelisting where you can actually say, I want anything from SurveyMonkey. It's legit. Just send it through. But of course, not a lot of people saw that or do that. So for me personally, that's one of my biggest frustrations of this process. The fact that I really want people to be able to vote. I want to be able to help them, but there are limitations with what we can actually do.
Yeah. I think for me, like I've ordered through the store, obviously Store Horseman, and my wife has as well. So we both get a survey, and typically what'll happen is one of us will get it and we'll, start jumping up and down, and then we'll tell the other one that it's out there and let them know, hey, it's coming from this particular account. Cause like this year I got it, and my wife couldn't find it. And I told her where it was from, and I think it had gone to her junk mail. So she was able to find it there. So
yeah, about half the people that email me and say, I don't have the email, when I say, did you look in your spam or junk folder? About half of them come back and say, yep, that's where it was.
Yeah.
The other half just don't have it, and like I said, in those cases, it's generally your email system probably blocked it. But again, thousands and thousands of people have voted. Curtis, you just mentioned that you voted. I know you voted Gorthok because you've been campaigning hard for the Shadow Orc. Who are your other picks this year?
This year, the first three weren't that hard for me. I went with Bothar because I got to support the dwarf guys, even though I'm not a huge dwarf guy. And that's who they selected as their nominee. So had to go Bothar. I went with Galaron. And and then Gorthok, and it really wasn't that difficult for me. Those were the three clear ones that I was going to go for. Calavian's okay, but I'll be honest, after seeing the Necronominous wave in person at G-Con, the old skeletons just don't do it for me. I don't care blue, red, green, an old skeleton just doesn't do it for me when I've seen the new ones. So
fair enough.
Those were pretty easy. On the bottom one, that was a little bit tougher. And I was between Ignatius and Asterion, and I ended up going with Asterion at the end. So
interesting. Okay. While I am not going to tell people who the leaders are, I will tell people every time we do these votes, there are surprises.
Mm.
Um, there are some things that happen that we expect. There are other things that are definitely a surprise. What I will say is I'm not wildly surprised by the leaders. So right now, the top five are very clear. It is very, very clear who the top five are. Three
When
of
you say top five, you mean in the upper section?
yes,
Okay.
yes, the top five. So beyond like the character who's number six, they're
Mhm.
not going at this point. I do not see any way that the character in number six would be able to leapfrog into number three. There's
Gotcha.
too much distance between six and three for that to be realistic. However, the difference between one and two is only a couple votes. The difference between five and three is a very small number of votes. So there's definitely still some flexibility there where different characters could end up being the one that moves up a little bit, but pretty solid there. In the alumni vote, it is very much down to two characters. One of them is a clear leader so far. I think they're going to take it, but you never know what could happen right at the end. There is definitely a possibility that the number two could overtake that number one.
Yeah. And
So,
I mean, as much as I've been campaigning for Shadowworks for a long time, the you know, the other reason why I'm excited for or wanting to get that figure is because the one that I was able to get, that wave had kind of an issue with
it did.
like loose limbs,
Floppy lemon.
and and
Yep.
and the newest all-star wave we've got, as well as these tactics figures, like everything that you guys have been putting out lately is just so much better quality in terms of getting a good pose and holding it and not having issues. So I'm excited to get a new shadow work that's even better than the original. So
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair assessment. You even see improvements in like Sir Owain. I know that's all
Mhm.
Star
Yep.
4, but if you ever had an original Sir Owain, specifically the soft parts like the neck collar and the folds armor at the waist,
Mhm.
something about that type of material, the paints are not as crisp on them for the original release. The All Stars release is beautiful,
Oh
so
yeah.
much crisper. So it makes me think that characters like Sir Galeron, like Sir Ignatius, that have those really kind of detailed paint art, colors, those metallic colors would be very, very cool to see as an all star.
Absolutely.
We do have someone saying, Legends Collector 1321. It was a pleasure to meet you on Saturday. Hope I didn't bug you too much. You absolutely didn't bug me too much. I had a great time on Saturday at Shop the Curiosity. Thank you to everyone who came out for that. So, to wrap up the conversation here on All Stars, voting does end this Friday, probably towards the evening. We'll turn the voting off completely, figure out who the actual winners are, and then the plan is that we will announce the winners towards the end of the month. So we've already said that the reveal special for All Star 6 is going to be on Friday, June 2nd. So we haven't set the time yet, but it'll be a prime time type thing. We'll probably do it like 8 o'clock or whatever. So that reveal special will reveal all of the new items that are part of All Star 6. But to save time, we're going to reveal the 4 All Stars winners prior to that special. So that will be revealed probably the last week of May.
Well, I know we won't find out on Friday, but if Gorthok were to have enough votes come Friday, that would be great because Friday's my birthday. So that
Oh,
would
there you go.
that would just be
You
perfect.
heard it. If you haven't voted yet, Curtis is humbly requesting a vote for Gorthok as his birthday present.
There you go.
The one last thing I will say actually is I said that there were always some surprises. The top 5 I'm not wildly surprised about. There are some middle of the ground characters that I am
Mhm.
very surprised about. Some characters have performed much better than I expected they would. One of the other things that's actually really, really interesting is there are different voting blocks. The way that I had to do it, there are different groups that were sent this information. And you would think that across large groups, the numbers would be fairly similar. Like character who is number one in one should probably be number one or two in others. There are some wild discrepancies.
Oh, wow.
Like there are some, there's one character that I kid you not is like number 9 or 10 in one vote and number 2 in another.
Oh, wow.
Really, really weird like that. So always interesting to see that, to see different blocks and how they actually vote. So, but all in all, it all gets calculated together. And then once it's all calculated, we get the final numbers.
Well, and it's cool that you say that about like the mid characters kind of surprising you with some of the votes because you've said before that all that data, you guys collect that and look at it for, what kind of characters that you want to make in the future. So
what kind of characters we want to make in the future. And there's other stuff too. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes. There are so many things that we talk about. It's almost like a chess match where there are certain things we know we have to do, but there are so many other things that we're like, okay, if these things happen, it'll open up the ability to do these things. So there's so much moving parts on the back end that having this data is really, really helpful when it comes to figuring out, additional releases down the road.
Right.
People asking current leaders, you can keep asking. I'm genuinely not going to tell you. I can't. Well, I mean, I could, but I'm not going to. Okay, going through the comments here. I was a little bit behind, so okay, let's see.
While you look for that, I just want to say hi to Jesse. So I'm say hi to me.
My
co-host. So
yep, I see him there. Oh, Curtis, I think I don't know if your internet's going down a little bit there. You seem to have frozen on me. Are you back?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah,
okay.
You were frozen for a minute there.
All right.
At least for me, you were frozen.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm caught up on the comments there. So the next thing to talk about, let me bring up another fun little screen cap there because this was something that we shared this afternoon that is a pretty big thing to talk about. Cosmic Legions is on the way. I put together this graphic a few weeks ago and have been itching to be able to finally share it. Today was the day. We wanted them to be able to talk about it on the afternoon show. So right around 3:30, about half an hour before the afternoon show, we made this post quietly on our Instagram and Facebook to let people know that, yes, we are at the point. Cosmic Legions production, or Cosmic Legions Valkatar Book 1 production is now complete. They are all packed up. They are on the water. They are on the boat. They are on their way to our warehouse in New Jersey.
That is exciting news. It just means I have to start building some more DTOFs, though.
I do not know where I'm going to put them. It's a good problem to have, but I definitely don't know. So yeah, very excited to have these out. We all know, we should know the background. We originally expected that these were going to be on a boat before the end of last year. We thought we were going to be shipping these at the start of this year. Late in December, we realized that wasn't going to happen. There were some issues that just had to be worked out. Anybody that's got the Cosmic Legions test shots, a lot of people have jokingly said that test shots are just the figures with no paint. But anyone who has the Cosmic test shots can attest to the fact that there were legitimate problems with them. There were bugs. Like those test shots were from an earlier part of the process where the Sphexians have parts that don't fit in tight and they're very floppy. The Thygar Grave Ring figure has a really weird neck peg and stuff. There are a number of issues that had to be resolved. So in late December, we announced that All Stars 5 was going to move up in the schedule. That is, of course, already shipped. And that Cosmic was going to ship around the end of April, beginning of May. And here we are, beginning of May, and these are indeed on the way.
Well, and normally, well, I wouldn't say normally, but in the recent years, we've gotten test shots after the wave has released. This time we got them before, so like you said, it was still early on the process. But I mean, there was a lot of excitement then. Like, even though those figures weren't finished figures and they're not painted and this and that, it there was a lot of excitement around those test shots. Those sales were a little wild. So
yeah, and realistically, releasing the test shots when we did was very strategic and intentional, because so much happens behind the scenes that we have to figure out the best way to do things. And a lot of times there's no perfect answers. We make the best decisions we can with what we have available. The recently completed Cosmic Legions Outpost Zaxius wave. So a lot of people, or I shouldn't say a lot, some people were surprised that we would solicit the third wave before the first wave was in hand. And I've spoken about this before. It was not an ideal situation by any means, but we had to decide that we know that Cosmic Legions 1 is going to hit soon. And the reality is Cosmic Legions 2, Grave Knight, is not going to be far behind.
mm-hmm.
The tooling and the production and the process for Cosmic Legions 2 has gone very, very well. That is going to come pretty much hot on its heels. Cosmic Legions 2 is in production now. So they're at the factory making those figures. So we knew that there was going to be kind of a 1-2 punch of Cosmic Legions 1 and 2. In fact, Cosmic Legions 2 is going to be delivered before Poxus, even though Poxus was solicited first, similar to what happened with All Stars leapfrogging Cosmic Legions. There are openings on the calendar. There's stuff that's ready to be done while other stuff is still working through some, pre-production things. You got to maximize the warehouse, the factory time. So Grave Knight's going to come pretty quickly after Cosmic 1. We wanted to have another wave. If we would have waited to solicit another Cosmic wave until Cosmic 1 was in hand, it would just extend the amount of time between Cosmic 1 and 2 and that third wave. So putting that small Zaxius wave out there gives us kind of that additional release that's going to be between the Valkatar books 1 and 2 and the next big start, the next big chapters of the story, which is going to come in the near future. So, that's one of those decisions that we ended up having to make, that not ideal now maybe, but in the long run is going to make a lot of sense.
Well, and we were talking before we went live, and I appreciate as a fan and a customer that after the solicitation of wave 1 Cosmic, the next 2 waves were what I would call budget friendly waves. I mean, you really combine the characters from wave 2 and 3, and that essentially would be one wave, if you looked at it in terms of size. So yeah, we will, after wave 1 delivers, we still have these 2 small waves, and then I'm assuming the next one is going to be a larger wave similar to 1. And it just kind of keeps us on track. So I appreciate those smaller budget ones are really good for the pocketbook for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that was also intentional, wanting to have those really concise, tight waves that are $200 all in, $235 all in. That, that is very, very intentional as well. So very excited to have those out. Again, they are on the water as of right now. Again, there's always things that could happen. They could be delayed at sea. They could be delayed in port. But barring any of those delays, we do expect that they will be in the warehouse studio next month in June. And with any luck, those all-ins, which will be the first things that ship out, those all-ins could be shipping to fans by the end of next month. So by the end of June, those could actually be in hand. So very, very excited about that.
Yeah, me too. That is very great news.
So this weekend, again, I had this Shop the Curiosity, and one of the things I did was I called the studio and I said, "Hey guys, it would be really, really cool if we had some stuff, some like production samples of Cosmic Legions to show at the show. And then, by the way, I'm having a Mythic meetup at my house on May 20th, and it would be really cool to show the people that come over these production figures." And you know what they said to me, right?
Absolutely.
They were like,
You're Jeremy Gerard. Why?
they said yes, but then they also said, so basically what you're saying, Jeremy, is you want some Cosmic Legions figures to play with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I said, yes, I do. So if you came to Shop the Curiosity this weekend, you got to see these on the table. Kragnar and Slog. These are actually production sample figures. These are exactly, I mean, these are like from the actual run. So these are from the figures, they're from the run. These are not tests. These are not like, hey, this is what you're going to see.
Yeah.
Approve it. These are part of the production run.
That's absolutely amazing. I love the different the color change on there from the dark scales to the lighter scales. Oh, so good.
I mean, this guy is so much nicer than I thought. And it's so weird to say that because I love these figures, but this was one. I know a lot of people really loved Kragnar. He was not one of my tops in the line. Neither was Slog. I liked them both, but they weren't two that I was the most excited about. And seeing them both in hand, blown away. Absolutely blown away. One of the things I love telling this story. See this little ring on the back?
Yeah.
When Eric sculpted that, it was a solid piece. He just imagined it to be a solid ring the way these rings on the cuffs are. And when the factory gets these files, they will routinely decide what are going to be separate pieces. So Chris has talked about this, like the heads that are inside of the hoods being separate pieces,
right.
Even on some of the faces where like the jaw is a separate piece or the nose is a separate piece that gets glued on. That all has to do with the molds themselves and preventing air pockets and stuff. So there are points where the factory does things that we don't even intend and expect, but it's awesome. The fact that they made that a separate ring, so it's actually a separate sculpted ring that is totally movable and everything. It's just a cool little thing. I can imagine people using that with a chain and posing it and stuff.
Yep. Chain him to the cell wall or something.
The cell wall. So cool. I'm sure we're getting a lot of comments. And then, of course, we've got the big boy here,
Meatball.
the meatball. Anybody who has been to any of our recent shows, we've had the test shots of Slog. If you've gotten the test shot of Slog, a lot of people, when they saw him this weekend, they said two things. Number one, he was smaller than they expected.
Okay.
So a lot of people expected him to be the size of a troll, and he's not. We said that right from the get-go.
Right.
You look at him compared to Kragnar, he's actually shorter than Kragnar. So he's much smaller than a troll. But trolls are rotocast. They're hollow, so they're not super heavy. This thing is 100% solid. It is like holding a little bowling ball or a little child.
He's beefy.
He is beefy. He is a meatball. So everybody, I've had so much fun at shows lately when people admire him saying, hey, you want to hold him? And I'm like, get ready. He's heavy. And to see them literally do this and like their hands go down and they're like, what the? Yeah. And then, of course, let me pull this off. So the dome does come off, and there are two separate heads. So the head just pops off. Other head pops on.
That's sweet.
It's cool, too, because not only can you move it, the head does have some posability. So
that's nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's actually like a disc in there. So, I mean, you can get it up that high or down that low. It really does have some posability. This is a figure that, for all of his size, I think people are going to be surprised with how posable he actually is.
That's cool. I love all the little details on the paintwork, on the the little cables and canisters and stuff.
People are going to have so much fun with all those details, and of course, the boxes just gorgeous with all of the cross sell.
Cross sell.
Dude, Curtis, I'm so excited for it. So excited. So little taste of Cosmic. Let's see what else. I'm going through the comments here. So someone's asking estimated shipping Cosmic to customers. As I said, probably end of June is when they should start. Definitely by the start of July. So going through this, and then I think it's 8 o'clock now, so we're going to switch gears. Miles, who was there this weekend, saying, got to see and handle these. I shot the Curiosity, spent a good time amount checking them out. They are beautiful.
I did see somebody asking if they're going to be at PowerCon. I would imagine so, right?
So we intentionally do not say.
I don't mean for sale. They're talking about the ones for display.
Will they?
Like the ones that you had?
Yes, things will be on display at PowerCon. These will be on display. Grave Knight will probably be on display. But people have asked if they'll be for sale. And what I have said is we never announce in advance what will or will not be for sale at a show. But Cosmic Legions is going to have a large presence at PowerCon this year. Ooh, so take that for what it is. That's me saying yes without saying yes.
Okay. So yes, they will definitely be able to see them, and there's a possibility they could buy them.
I will say this, a little bit of fair warning. Yep. I've obviously been around Mythic Legions since the earliest parts of the line. I've been there since Mythic Legions 1. I've worked with the studio for 4+ years now. I have seen certain situations happen across that almost 10-year span, and I'm seeing those same signs happen for Cosmic Legions. And what I'm talking about is a wave that from solicitation to delivery, there's an extended period of time. There's a lot of new fans who have come into the line during that time who didn't have access to the pre-order in such a way that when the figures actually hit, there's a feeding frenzy. There's an absolute feeding frenzy for those figures. Mythic Legions 1, when those actually shipped, you saw a number of those figures start just skyrocketing on the secondary market. People were hungry for them. People who had them wanted more. People who had skipped them wanted to get in. So you started seeing those figures. It is literally why Mythic Legions All-Stars exists. Okay, because figures like the Barbarian and Asterion and Orange Steelhide started going for $200-300. The studio said we need to reissue these things so fans who want them can get them. We also saw something similar with the Aether wave. The Aether wave had such a long window because of COVID that when they finally hit, it was insanity right out of the gate. I remember we were still shipping figures and Magnus was $100. It was nuts. I really do feel like this is what Cosmic Legions is shaping up. There's a number of people that went light, a number of people that weren't around, a number of people that skipped it, and then people that just feel like they didn't buy enough.
Right.
I'm telling you, as my viewers, if you have not purchased Cosmic Legions 1 yet and you want them, find them at your favorite retailer and pre-order them. Because once these hit, I'm guaranteeing you, stocks are going to be depleted quickly. They are going to go fast. If you're saying, oh, I'll just wait for the in-stock sale, don't wait for an in-stock sale because who knows when or if that will ever happen. You have
hasn't been one in a while.
Get them from those retailers. So that's my friendly way of saying if you don't get them now at retailer prices, you might be shut out of getting these things for what you would consider a reasonable price.
Well, and I would say from a customizer standpoint, which I know your show does bring in quite a few customizers.
Yep.
What I saw with the Alithia wave or with the Aether wave and the Alithia wave is the figures that started going quickly that, started not seeing at shows anymore and stuff like that are the ones that had the new tooling. So your Magnus, your Vorthogs,
Yep.
when the Alithia
Yep.
came out, your Valix and stuff like that. Like, so Cosmic is all kinds of new tooling. So when that comes out, you're talking about all these new parts that we haven't been able to play with before as customizers. And yeah, I think it's going to get crazy really quick.
Yep. Agreed 100%. Yeah, you're going to get the people that want these parts to mix with Mythics. You're going to get the people that just want to do more Cosmic customs. And like I said, there are sleepers. I've long said this. This is no surprise. The Sphexians were under-ordered in this wave. They just were. A number of people, when we showed the Sphexian test shots at PowerCon last year, a number of people were like, oh my goodness, they don't even look like I thought they looked. They're totally different. Those are the unpainted. When you see that blue sheen, those blue colors on the Sphexian prison guard, dude, they are absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely
awesome.
gorgeous.
I love hearing that.
Justin saying, if the Coliseum Orc wins All-Star 6, will it paint match to the Aetherblade Orc? So there technically isn't a Coliseum Orc in All-Star 6. You're probably referring to Urku, who is not the Coliseum Orc. That's from Wave 1. And if it wins, it will be painted like the original Urku, not to match the Aetherblade figures. I don't know how far away it is from the Aetherblade figures, but it definitely won't. The paint color won't be changed if it wins.
It's not terribly different. It's pretty close.
Yeah, I kind of figured it was just looking at them across the room from each other. Will Cosmic have a large presence at Legions Con? Absolutely. Legions Con this year is going to be very much a mix of Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions, Figure Obscura. So all three lines will be represented. People asking earlier when we are going to reveal the day 2 figure for Legions Con. There's a lot of stuff we've got going right now with All Stars and so forth and Cosmic coming. So we want to reveal it at a time where it makes sense to do so. That's really all I'm going to say on that.
Just one last thing for me on Cosmic. For me, it's all about the Tusk figures. Not only Wave 1, the newest one, the Red Jet. I want all the Tusk I can get. It's like the Stormtroopers of Cosmic Legion, and I need every different variety and multiples.
So great question from Alec. I'm going to be at Legions Con later this year and was planning to army build the Legion builders for con prices. Is that a viable strategy? Should I bite the bullet on retailers? So, Alec, I would bite the bullet on retailers, and here's why. At the con, you are limited to one of each. So when you get in the Horseman line and there's all that stuff on the table, you can buy literally every figure on the table, every different figure, but only one of each. We don't allow anybody to come up and get 6 of this one, 5 of this one. And it's simply so we can spread the wealth as much as possible. Now, of course, you are welcome after you go through the checkout line to get back in line, which quite literally people did all day last year. Last year at Legions Con, the doors opened at 9 and the line started. The show was supposed to end at 4, but we let it go till 5. And at 5 o'clock, there was still people in line buying product. And George literally said, no, you're done. We can't sell you anymore. We're done. George hadn't left the cash register all day. George and Diego were just there all day. So, Alec, to answer your question succinctly, you can probably pick up a couple of them at a show like Legions Con, but because of the limits, you're not going to be able to army build like you said. So if you really do want them, your best bet is to get at least some from retailers and then use the con appearance more as a bonus to maybe add a few more at those slightly lower prices.
Here's what I would throw out there. There's obviously a chance that we could see a reinforcements or a deluxe Legion builder wave or something else later this year that would give you a chance to Legion build, army build some Legions.
Mhm.
But right now, with those figures that are out, the ones that are currently out there at $35, it's not that much more than what you're going to pay in one of those waves. I mean, $10 extra, and you're not taking that chance on waiting. So yeah, I would say if there was ever a time to buy Legion builder figures from a retailer, this is it.
Yep. Is that a policy at every show or at Legions Con? It is a policy at every show. We do lift purchase limits if possible. So, for instance, at Shop the Curiosity this weekend, the first pass through was 1 per. But once we got through that line, we said, okay, purchase limits are lifted. Now you can get whatever you want. I mean, it's crazy that we are a company that literally has to limit people. Like dealers who are in the room come up and we literally say, no, I can't take your money, because there are people outside, there are fans outside who are waiting in line. So you need to get after them. Like once they come in, you can get in line after them and we'll be glad to sell to you. We're not going to sell to you because you're a vendor, whatever. We're happy to sell to you. But just because you're in the building, we can't sell to you first. We got to sell to the people that have been waiting in line outside for hours. That's company policy. The other part is we don't want someone to come up and clear out a whole bunch of figures at the expense of people behind them. So if the line ends, we will lift purchase limits. At PowerCon, it never happened. At PowerCon, we literally sold out of stuff on the table, and there was still a line of people who wanted to buy. PowerCon, we can only bring so much because we have to travel 8 hours to get there. Legions Con's a little bit different because it's in our backyard. It's why we do Legions Con in our backyard. We bring a lot more. So we didn't run out at Legions Con. What we ran out of was time. Literally, the show ended and the line never ended. So
from 2 days, like
for 2 days,
it never ended.
Two solid days. I saw Eric Miller earlier saying he never got to go through the line at Legions Con. Yeah, I mean, it's if you're behind a table, it's hard to get in that line. You almost have to have someone watch your table for a while so you can go wait in that line. I will say this year at Legions Con, we will have even more checkouts. Last year, day one at Legions Con, the checkout was slow. We fixed it on day 2 by moving the show exclusive figures away from the Horseman booth and separating those 2 lines. That was a massive improvement. Mm-hmm. It also allowed us to give the checkout people more space. So we're going to have legit checkout stations at Legions Con to hopefully speed that up.
Yeah, and I would say as a fan, I appreciate that you guys do that with the limits because, I mean, if I'm thinking about it from your perspective, everybody's money spends the same. So if you sold all your figures to the first person, that's a quick day for you and you've already made all your money. But instead, you're trying to spread the love to as many people as possible, which, is nice so that everybody's got a shot at these things. So
yeah, no one wants to see because, look, we're all toy fans, right? So we've all heard people say, oh, scalpers and this and that. I've always said that Legions is almost as scalper free a line as you could imagine because everything is done on pre-order.
Right.
So like, order what you want. We will make whatever you want.
Yeah.
So there's no scalping from that perspective. Once things are in hand and certain items sell for more money, look, my personal definition of scalping is not that.
Yeah.
After the stuff actually gets delivered, if something becomes desirable and people have it and they sell it for more money, I don't consider that scalping because of the pre-order model. But going to a show with a limited amount of stuff and buying like a whole row of rare stuff so you can go up in your hotel room, take photos of it and sell it on eBay, that is scalping. So we do try to avoid that. We do say, nope, you can buy one, because we want all these people behind you to have a shot at getting it as well.
Well, and even the releases that you guys have done that are limited in quantity where it's not a pre-order, like the figure Obscura, they've been available for multiple hours. And typically you do multiple releases. Like there's a sale in the morning and then one in the afternoon. So, you still have a good shot at getting in and get it. If you're there when the sale starts, you're going to get one.
Yeah. I mean,
So
even like the Legions Con figures, the standard Legions Cons that we did, they stuck around for quite some time because we are trying to make quantities that will meet that demand.
yeah.
All right, let's shift the conversation a little bit here. So,
Okay.
Mythic Legions Tactics. Now, these were offered in two different campaigns. So, there was the private crowdfunding campaign that was done, not through Kickstarter. That was done just through their own kind of Forge Horseman platform that they did. It was basically them just kind of taking pledges.
Yep.
That was the Forge founders. So the only figures that were available in that campaign were the orc, a male elf, and a female elf. And those versions were the Forge founder versions. They each came with an extra head that wouldn't be in subsequent releases.
Correct.
Then a few months later in the summertime, they did an actual Kickstarter that included those same four figures without the bonus heads, as well as the Gorgo Aetherblade 2 versus Attila Leosair 2 pack. So, my first question, did you back both campaigns or just one of them?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
you
was
got
I was in for the first
founder.
one, and then by the time the next one came, obviously I needed the Attila and Gorgo, but I also said, you know what, I probably should have ordered a few more of these extra builders too. So I had to throw a few more of those on top.
Okay, then, and I do have some photos of some pop and swaps you've done and so forth. First impressions out of you got your big box, you got all your stuff. What are your first impressions of these figures? Anyone stand out as like a immediate favorite? Hit me.
Well, I thought the male orc was going to be my favorite, and it is. Like the male orc is definitely my favorite. At the time that I got into Legion, this was my first wave. This is the first thing that I ordered from anything Mythic Legion related was these tactics figures. And at the time, there were no green orcs available, and so I ordered heavy on the male orcs, and I love them. First impression when I got the box, it was a huge box, and I thought, wow, I can't believe it's 2025 already. Time just
Time
flew.
flies.
These things really do exist. And then just going through and looking at them, I like as I pulled each one out, like you see the pictures and you see how much stuff, like if you go to Source Horseman and you look at these figures, you see how much is included with each one. But when you actually look at the package on these and you see how many weapons and armor, and like the female orc comes with almost two full bodies,
Yeah.
it's like ridiculous how much stuff is in there.
Yep.
So when I started, I went through my order, make sure everything was correct. I did have one error, which is a common one that I've heard of, where when they were combining the two from the Forge founder and the other campaign, they combined them. Some of the female orcs and elf orders got mixed up. So I ended up with one extra elf female and one less orc. But then when I was looking at them, like, well, shoot, they're all 2.0 parts, and the female orc almost comes with two full bodies. So I'm just going to take that extra elf one that I had and take it as a challenge to pop and swap and kind of do these things. So that's what I did. And I just kind of pop and swapped and made a couple orcs out of it. And then I went to the male orc and I used some of the parts from the female because that's once again 2.0. And then I got to the male orc and I'm like, shoot, everything else is 2.0. I don't have anything to swap with this male orc, and I'm having so much fun. And then I saw the Gorgo and Attila 2-pack there, and I'm like, okay, well, these guys are getting torn apart because I need some cool armor for my orcs, and that's what I did. So this was
I
my
showed someone was commenting about your Attila orc. So I showed that, and here's the Gorgo version.
Yep. So this one's got the Gorgo armor, and I kind of went with like I was looking at Romulus at the time, and I was like, I want to do you can't really see it there, but he's got one armored arm and then one bare arm and then the bare legs, and then gave him the shield and the sword, and then the cape I only looped on the one side, so it was kind of hanging off the side.
Yep.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of a cool look there.
So I want to jump in here. I like you, when these first were solicited, the figure I was the most excited for, because this was the first campaign,
Yep.
figure I was most excited for was the male orc. 100% pumped for that one. It was a time where male, like green orcs, were just in such short supply.
Well, the only orc at the time that was out, like even at retailers, was the Fury Clan. That was it.
Sure. Okay.
Wow.
See, I remember this period. There was a spell of no green orcs because that was the period that people were buying extra Chronos and Purplors
Yep.
off of the Bad Toy Store. And I have a number of customs here. Like I have some green orc customs that are Chronos that I repainted them. It was a great figure to repaint as a base.
I even saw some people getting Kauros and painting over his stripes.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
because this was a period where not only were there no green orcs, there were no bare chests. Like barbarians and orcs were in crazy short supply during this span of time.
Yeah, that was the Kador push in All Stars that never happened. That everybody was sure he was a sure thing, and then Scalfoid got in. They're like, "What happened?"
Right. So I was so excited for the male orc, and it's a great figure. But I'm gonna be totally frank. For me, the elves stole the show. When I got these 4 figures in, I opened the orcs. I very much enjoyed them. The amount of parts they came with, as someone said, was insane. But it's interesting how things change because when they were solicited, barbarian style orc bodies were in short supply. We have plenty of those these days. Between the gladiator and the barbarian builder and the orc in reinforcements and Vorthog, there's all these figures that have come out. But what we are in short supply is 2.0 bodies. So male or female, we've gotten a few females lately. Obviously, we just got Lady Averona, but male 2.0 bodies, we have not seen any of those in quite some time. And yes, I know people are going to say those bodies definitely need an update. We need more parts. We are well aware of that. So for me, when I opened those were the ones I was most excited for. I do have a couple pictures here of some of the elf stuff that you did. So here's a couple. These are, I guess, your male elf and a female elf. And these 2 looks here. That female look that you have there is almost identical to how I have my main one.
Oh, nice. Yep. I do like those as well. Like, I mean, there's not a loser in this batch. Like I think, there's been a few figures over the years that I've opened up and had a lot of fun with. One is the Barbarian Deluxe Builder, of course. The Furious 4 with all those parts, and then these would be right up there with those. Like, there's just so many different options. I've probably seen, a few hundred pictures in the Cabal, and not really too many of them look the exact same, because there's so many different options that you can use on these folks. So
I do feel though, because like with the orcs, like take that male orc. So, the one that I just showed, the build that I just showed here, to me, this particular look is the one that's the most unique. So even though we've gotten that hag with Vorthog, obviously we got it with Uwit, that skull-like face paint, that's a different look. To me, that like skull face paint is like super low-hanging fruit from a design standpoint, but I love it.
Oh yeah, it's very Princess of the Frogs.
Dude, I love that stuff so much.
I know.
Like anytime I've seen a person paint a custom with like face paint like that or whatever, I love it. That is a style that I really, really always dig. Even though I've seen it done so many times, it's not breaking any new ground. It doesn't have to. It's like it's like a comfortable shirt. I love it. It's just great. I don't want to say my problem, but I guess the challenge for me with the other heads is I have them. So you've got the orc with the helmet, you've got the orc without the helmet. Those are heads that I've got on a number of other figures. And they're green. They're green orcs, so there's nothing real different. With the elves, even though I have a lot of those heads, I love the different complexions. The fact that we got two different Whisperlings. So we got, the kind of helmeted elf with the face open, and we got the Malachi Cinderhorn head repainted as a Whisperling with the green skin. Being able to
Mm.
add two more Whisperlings, that was a huge win. That picture that I just showed that you had of the elves, that female elf with that dark complexion, love that. That's like a new look for me. I love that.
Yeah, I would have liked on the female orc if there would have been a set of armored legs instead of the bare legs. That way you could have included some different heads, like a Fury Clan female orc head,
Yep.
or something like that would have been really cool with it. But I do like the one head that came with it that we had that's got the white like lines down on the orc female orc head is really cool. And then you're right about the male orc head, like the plain green one, and that's why I had to cut it in half and put it in an Attila helmet. So
So
you gotta make do with what you got.
Are you talking about this one?
Yeah, that one's really cool.
Yeah. So this is the Juno head.
Yeah.
Yeah, which that's my so this is my default look for that particular figure. I like that head a lot. I know a lot of people were bummed that it didn't have tusks. I mean, obviously you can only use what you've got, but I was okay with it not having tusks because for me, like whenever I think of half orcs, for instance, half orcs are often depicted as having more flesh tone. So they're like they look like an orc, but they're not green.
Yeah.
For me, in my canon, this is a half orc. It just happens to be that the skin is the complexion of a green skinned orc, but maybe she doesn't have other orcish common traits like the protruding tusks.
I was the exact same way.
Yeah.
So I put those two female orcs together. The one has the tusk, the other one doesn't. But it's just different varieties. Like we all don't look the same either. We're all human, but we don't look the same. So
yeah, so I'm big fan. One thing that I wish it would have come with the male.
I'll give you mine after you give me yours.
So the male, well, you just mentioned wishing those upper legs.
Yep.
The male elf has that hooded head with the yellow hood.
Yep.
Totally a new color. We've never gotten a color like that. Love it. I wish we had a piece of soft goods to go with it. Even one of those cheap old capes. Like it doesn't have to be the crazy wired capes that we're getting now. Even if it just would have had that, like that, regular style cape like we got with the Elf Ranger, just something to go with that yellow hood. That to me is, if I had to add one piece to any of these, that's what I would add.
Well, this isn't for those. It's not for those 4-packs, but for the Attila Gorgo.
Okay.
The wrist clamp style shield holders. They're and I understand why the switch to the other ones, because they do make a more dynamic pose most of the time, but those shields are a little bit heavier.
Yep.
And those clip ones, luckily I still have some, but if you're just now getting in the line and you don't have some of those old style clips, they're a little bit hard to get them to hold that heavy shield.
I saw you mention that, and I've seen a couple people do it, and you're right. It's one of those things where we made an improvement, but in this particular case, the original would have actually probably worked better for this. Because what I've had to do is kind of position it where like the top of the shield is almost wedged underneath the armor. So the armor is kind of what holds it intact there for my display.
Yeah.
So I did a pop and swap. I've got a couple of yours to show, but I did this one that I'm a huge fan of. So I was really excited for the Gorgo and Attila 2-pack.
Yep.
And Gorgo is, my favorite figure in the line. I've said this before. He's the one, when I first saw Mythic Legions, he's the one that really drew me. I love the armor, but I was playing around with these parts, and I looked over at, Lord Bushati, and I said, you know what? Just to break up the color a little bit, I wonder how the red upper arms and upper legs would look. And then these particular soft goods, they're from Max Bird. They're made for Brother Mandibulus. They're some of my favorite custom soft goods. I've used them a number of times and I just dig them. So
Mhm.
giving him that skirt and then this wired cape. The cape that he comes with is cool, but this one is two-tone. It's black and red. And then I did what I've seen a number of people do. I replaced the antlers with the gold antlers from the Bronze Dwarf Legion builder to tie all that gold in. So I ended up doing this, and I honestly like it so much that this is how that Gorgo 2 actually looks in my display now.
That's awesome. Yeah, the I love the way the soft goods work, and then those legs definitely make a big difference.
Yeah.
So
So that was my little pop and spot
I
on my
wouldn't have
wardrobe.
even like I have that particular soft good set on my
Yep.
brother Mandibulus, and I didn't even recognize that that's what that was.
Yep.
So that's cool.
Yep. Yeah, I like I said, I've used it quite a few times, and every time I put it on something, I'm like, darn, it looks so good. I like that one. Let's see what else I got here. I've got a few different shots from you. Here's another one. So these are two of the female orcs that you put together. So are these? So is this one set? Two
This
set?
it's one set of orc parts, but it's with mixed with a female elf.
Okay, that's where you
So
got
I
the upper legs.
Yeah. So the upper legs is from the female elf. I think the lower legs is actually from the female elf too.
Okay.
Um, and then mixed some of the
Yep.
upper and lower torso pieces, and just tried to give them each some bear parts, but at the
Yep.
same time some armored parts, and in a way that I thought kind of made sense. So
Now, before the show started, you had mentioned something that these particular builder packs were some of the most fun that you've had playing with toys in quite some time, right?
oh, absolutely.
They
Yeah,
are. They are.
it's just like I said, when I started opening them up and you realize how many different options there were, and it was funny. And like I didn't even think well, first of all, after all this time I was not going to send it back and try to get a replacement or something. I was like, whatever was in that box, it's kind of like when I order McDonald's for the family and I leave with like two big giant bags. Like, we're not going to go through this whole order. Whatever they gave us, that's what we're eating.
Yeah.
So, so that's kind of how I was. So when I got into it and I was mixing the orc and the elf, I just had so much fun that I just continued to do that as I went into the male elf, and then then again once I went into the male orc, and it was just a lot of fun just playing. I spent the whole day just playing around, and it was a great time.
Yeah. It's I will say this, your decision to keep the one you got, notwithstanding, the game team did send out an email last week, maybe. They so Diego mentioned today something. He said that we are now done shipping tactics figures. So all of the orders that we have received from the game team are now on the way. Uh, there are still a number of people that backed these campaigns that have not reached out. They haven't responded to the emails to pay their shipping. So as anyone that backed this knows, shipping was not included in the original pledges. We had to pay that after the fact. So people that haven't paid for their shipping haven't gotten these figures. So there are still a small number that we're waiting for. So if you fall in that category, please get that paid so you can get your figures. Anyone that does have any problems, they received something in error, they didn't receive something they think they should have gotten, including maybe a signed box that they thought they should have had, email Mythic Legions Tactics at gmail.com. The game team is putting together all of those issues. All of those customer service requests are going to be handled after shipping is done, which is now. They're going to start tackling some of those issues, immediately.
Yep. Or have some fun. do like I did, switch them around. I did see somebody in there talking about, like, they're still available from some retailers and stuff. I would say if you haven't picked these up, if you haven't already got some, they are absolutely 100% worth the money. If I was to make one change, it would be to go back and tell myself to order even more of these because they are awesome. So
you gotta pace yourself. There's a lot more coming out. So
they're great though.
So
yeah.
Talking about playing around, popping and swapping, you decided to turn both Attila and Gorgo into orcs. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to do this, because we haven't spoken. We've talked about the builder packs. We haven't gotten to Gorgo and Attila, which for me stole. Though I said the L stole the show, I meant just from the builders. The thing I was most excited for was absolutely the Gorgo and Attila 2-pack.
Yeah, I mean the Gorgo and Attila 2-pack is amazing. The thing is that I already have a Gorgo and Attila. So and that's not to say that you can't have two, but just in my collection, I don't want to have two. So I've been kind of like hemming and hawing on what I would do with these. I thought that I would maybe sell the old ones or whatever. Didn't really know what I was going to do. And then when I started playing around with the 2.0s and I got to the orc, it was like, I just want to mix the orc with something else and make something different. And that was, I just tore these apart. And at first I put on that orc head, the not the one with the helmet, but just the plain orc head on that figure. And it looked good, but it was missing something. So then I figured out how you take that piece apart to get the faceplate out. And I was like, I can put the front part of it on with the head intact the way it is. But then if you turn it to the side, you don't have the back of that helmet.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, you know what? It's a plain orc head. I've got however many more in these boxes. I'm going to chop this thing up and see what I can do. And so I, just got out the X-Acto knife. I warmed the head up, cut off the ears first, cut the head in half, and then dremeled a little bit of a space in there and put this together, and I fell in love. So yeah, this one's, out of all the ones that I did, this one's got the most attention for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Someone's asking about the orc Gorgo, so I'll bring that one up next. So I want to go back for a second. You already have a Gorgo and Attila, absolutely. Out of curiosity, for your collection, do you upgrade Gorgo 1 and Attila 1 to the 2.0 versions?
I was planning on it. I was planning on it. I'm not now. Really? And I saw Joe Gonzalez had a post in the Cabal today where he had put the new Attila on a throne with two of the old ones on the side. Yeah. And I think what I'm going to do is the reverse of that. I'm going to put the old Attila on the throne and have two of my orc Tillas on either side of him guarding him.
So you know what head I love for that? Because I like that idea. I like the fact that these, having these two guards next to them. I can't remember the name of the head, so I'm going to describe it. It's a God's Fire head through Wolf King Customs. It's like a full iron mask type thing that Emil did.
Okay. Is it the Angel Knight?
No. I used it on a vampire. Hold on a second. Let me.
Embiggen yourself.
I used it this one.
Oh yeah, that's the Lord Perosa. Yeah.
It's not Lord Perosa because he doesn't have.
Oh, isn't it?
It's the one. It looks.
Oh, like no. Yeah. That's the. It's like a gladiator type helmet that he did. I can't remember what that one's name is, but yeah.
This style head, I feel and I know it's not looking real good there. It's tough to see, but that style head, I feel painted for that body for the new Attila body would look just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Yeah, I remember when I first saw that head from Emil, I thought of the guy in Gladiator that he's fighting where they got the lion and stuff.
Yeah, I like that. No, it's not the Fallen. It's one of the newer ones. Yeah, Joe, I saw that post as well, and I really dug it. That would be the only change that I would probably do, is instead of using the Attila heads on each of the guards, I would give the guards a more like descript head, more of a fully armored type head. Even if you want to use the lion helmet, I would love to see a faceplate instead of that, because that Attila faceplate comes off.
Mm-hmm.
A faceplate that goes in there that makes it more of like a fully armored type mask with the big lion. I think that would make a more appropriate type guard character. But I loved that photo as well.
Yeah, and then
And
he used 2 shields as like
yeah,
standards,
yep,
which was really cool. Yeah.
yep, yep. Yeah, I already had my original Gorgo at the top of my Aether shelf sitting on
Mm.
a custom throne. So I ended up putting my new Aether like in front of all the orcs. So he's kind of on the orc shelf leading all the orcs, while I have the other one way at top along with Aether himself and Belphegor and Lady Averona. So I was able to put both of them. And similarly with Attila, I have Attila, like a lot of people, including Joe, that old McFarlane Conan throne is
Oh
just
yeah.
perfect. It's perfect for Attila. So I have him. I have my original one still sitting on that shelf. Interestingly, I have him flanked by 2 guards as well, but I have 2 different Vetus figures on
Oh,
either
okay.
side. And then I have my new one a couple shelves down hanging out with Otho.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've got currently my Attila sitting on top of Balius. But yeah, I'm probably going to switch that to a throne room setting because I really like that.
Yeah. That was good. So here we've got that Gorgo one there. Yeah. Great stuff. So anything else, as we're kind of wrapping up the conversation here, anything that surprised you about the packs?
Just how fun they were. Like it was just a lot of fun putting this stuff together. Like, I mean, when it was first solicited, it although it had a lot of parts, they looked very basic. It was a basic elf, basic, wasn't anything what I would say sexy about them. But getting into them was a lot more fun than I expected, and I really even though some of the heads we already had, the orc one with the face paint, and then the Juno head for the orc. Like I just loved those. And
Yep.
then, like
Yep.
you said, with the elves, having the different complexion elves was really cool as well. So
Love the different complexion elves. That was one of how much I like the 2 elves was probably my surprise. One thing that I don't feel like a lot of people have spoken about that I really do appreciate is all the weapons in these sets are weapons we already have. There's no new weapons. But I like the fact that the weapons in this set are all painted really nicely.
yeah.
So something is simple here. This axe here. This is that, goblin style axe. It came, with the Goblin Legion builder. It's come with a number of things. Something as simple as making sure that this handle is painted like wood, which it's sculpted to look like. That little touch is across all these weapons. Even though we have them all, I appreciate the fact that they all came in new colors. And something as simple as that does add a different look and a different set of options for you as a customizer and someone who wants to pop and swap. These are great fun for people that want to pop and swap. If you're kind of new to the line, opening these up and starting to play around, you have so many options, so many parts. It's almost overwhelming. But even just with these, your fodder bins are going to be full with extra pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I opened up 5 of the builders. So it was 2 female elves, a female orc, a male elf, and a male orc, and then the Gorgo Attila.
Yep.
And I've got 2 baggies, like 2 giant Ziploc baggies full of extra stuff just from those figures. And then, another side note with the weapons too, like I know we're sitting here in 2025, but if you go back to 2021, And remember, before these things went on sale, just that Aetherblade sword alone, like I saw that thing sell for like 300 by itself.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
the fact that that's just kind of thrown in there, and
Mhm.
because I've seen some people that'll have Gorgo with the axe,
Yep.
and it's like now you've got this extra Aetherblade sword, which I mean,
And
yeah,
that Aetherblade, because the Aetherblade came out with Aether,
yep,
but the Aetherblade that comes with Aether is not like as nicely painted.
mm-mm.
It's like almost one color.
Yeah,
So even if you just say, you know what, I want to give the Aetherblade to Aether, I don't want Gorgo to wield it because look, I'll tell you in the lore,
mm.
when Aether comes back, he takes the Aetherblade.
Well, yeah, he's gonna want his sword.
Gorgo's not going to wield that. He's the caretaker of it. He's going to use it to call back Aether.
Yeah.
So, it's fine. There are points where Gorgo wields the Aether Blade, but it's not a permanent thing. So he is going to be using other weapons at some point. So even if you decide, you know what, I'm going to take the Aether Blade, the nicely painted one that's part of this 2-pack, and give it to my Aether to upgrade him, that's absolutely a feasible option. And you're right. There was a point that those weapons packs, specifically the Heavens brand and
Yeah.
Aether Blade 2-pack or pack that came with those, weapons pack 3 that was going for crazy dollars.
Yeah. So just to get that in with this as well, and like you said, it's painted superbly. That sword looks
Yep,
beautiful. So
absolutely. Someone asked me if we'd ever do a goblin one like this. Possibly. Never know what the future will hold. These types of sets are popular. The Barbarian, we've said many times that the Barbarian builder set that has been released multiple times now is probably the most popular set we've ever done. It's
mhm.
sold the most units. Certainly, I've long said that if I had to give a person one figure to show them what Mythic Legions is all about, it would have been that Barbarian builder set. That's a great figure to do that with. So yeah, it's awesome to have these big comprehensive sets like this. And for something like Goblins, yeah, that'd be a ton of fun to put together because we have so many different parts that we could throw in there.
Yeah, I've always said the same thing. Like if I'm going to give somebody a figure to get them in the line, it would be that barbarian figure. But at this point, I think I would ask the person like, what kind of things do you like?
Sure.
And if they said an elf, I would give them one of these.
Yeah.
If they said an orc, I would give them one of these.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just these are right on par with that for sure.
The orc's a great one too. I mean, because to me, both the barbarian and the orc,
Mm,
I know people like the 1.0 build typically better than the 2.0. I love them both, but I like the chunkiness of the 1.0 build.
yeah.
I've always liked that kind of oversized, chunky look. So to me, either one, orcs and barbarians are both fantasy archetypes. Giving either of those sets to somebody as, hey, check this out. This is what the line is about. Because some of the things that make me like the orc set a little bit less,
Mm,
like the fact that I already have those heads. If you don't have a Legions figure, those 3 heads are going to blow, or 4 heads if it's the bonus one, are going to blow you away.
yeah. I see Alec here was talking about the Furious Four. That's a great one too, especially if you've got the 2-pack, which basically is 5 heads and all that other stuff. Like if you gave somebody that as their first thing, like that's all you need.
Whoever came up with that set is a bloody genius.
Oh man, I just hope that Sunday this year has something just as amazing. I'm sure we're going to hear about that very soon. So.
Well, I mean, just as amazing. Let's be honest.
Well, okay.
We've got Lord. If it's not a Lord Bouchatti 2.0, we know that we're already working from behind, right?
Yeah, we've already got some thoughts. We've been talking about it on a few shows, and we're pretty sure that it's like a 2-bad figure with a Nate and Trevor head, and it's really the same head. So you can't tell the difference between the two, but it's one figure with 2 of the same head. So
I will tell you what it's not.
okay. and it's that.
At one point, we jokingly talked about doing a 2-pack that was a George Cookie 2-pack, and it was just 2 of the same figure.
That's beautiful. One would come with a birthday cake, though.
You're like, you know what? That's not the smartest release. Like for that joke, for how funny that joke would be to a couple of us, probably not worth it.
It regardless of what some people would say, though, it would be fun, even
Yes,
though some people don't like fun.
absolutely fun. You know what? I'm gonna transition. Are you cool? Is there anything else you want to talk about with tactics? Or are you good?
No, but the only other thing I would say is I am doing on this Friday on Offworld. We're going to talk more about War of the Aetherblade, the game, the orders. My fellow co-host will have theirs in at that time, and they'll talk about theirs as well. So,
Awesome.
Anybody wants to join us on Friday, we're going to talk a little bit more about this stuff. So
awesome. And the last thing I will say about tactics is obviously all of this campaign, all of these campaigns, as awesome as the figures are and the shirts and all that, coins. The whole point of this was to back that video game. I don't want to prematurely say anything because it's not my announcements to make. But I do know that they are making progress. I do know that they have, an end date in sight that they are going for. Everything I have seen has been absolutely amazing. I'm not a gamer, so I'm just approaching it as a Mythic Legions fan and just being exciting to see the world I love come to life. So hopefully they're going to have some information to share on that very soon. But just like these figures lived up to the hype, and while the lengthy wait was unfortunate, at least when the product arrives, it seems like fans are very happy with it. I think we're going to see the same thing with the game.
I mean, when it comes to action figures, you guys never disappoint with the quality of the figures. We've said it a million times before, though. If you want to get somebody into Mythic Legion, just hand them a figure. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
So there's never any doubt that once those get here, that it's going to be amazing.
Good.
So,
and Cosmic will be the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of fun, I had a really cool thing, and I wish I would have had it with me here. I didn't end up bringing it with me. But I'm curious, did you get in at all on the Formo Toys, order anything with that? I don't know, because I know you're
not.
Like, because I know you're a Motu fan, so I know you like Masters of the Universe, and those have a very Motu type feel to it. So, that is. So I'm going to be totally blunt here. I'm not a vintage Motu guy. I was when I was a kid. I love vintage Motu, but that style of figures, not up my alley at all. I wanted to support Formo Toys and Legends of Dragonor 100% because the people involved in it are super cool.
Yep.
Dude, those figures are crazy fun. Like playing with them at the shows I've seen them at and stuff and everything. Yeah. I'm so it's one of those things where current Jeremy is so happy that past Jeremy did something smart and decided to buy some of those figures because they are super, super cool. Even for someone who's not into that style, massive nostalgia. Nostalgia for something I never had because I'm not playing with what's the Motu vintage line that's coming out now? Origins,
yeah.
I always get Masterverse and Origins and all that messed up in my head. It's not like I'm playing with Origins where I'm like, wow, it reminds me of a toy I had as a kid, but upgraded.
Right.
I never had any of these characters, clearly, but they still touch that nostalgic bone. I think people are really going to have a blast with those.
They look great. The only reason I didn't get into it was really strictly from a space standpoint. You can only collect so many lines, and but I understand completely what you're saying. It's nice when you support somebody because you want to support them, and then the side benefit is they also make something great. And that's kind of how I feel with the Defenders of Eden with Matt Rodriguez. It's like, I want to support Matt because I like Matt. He's a good guy. But at the same time, those dinos look pretty awesome. So
I'll tell you what I'm doing because space is limited for me as well. One of the things that I did a couple of years ago, I did a display. And you know what? I'll actually I will take this and actually move it for a second. So this shelf right here, this is kind of my like catch-all shelf that it's just like stuff from my childhood that I remember.
That's
So,
awesome.
I've got, Star Wars and Batman and Optimus Prime and, Spider-Man and, Motu and G.I. Joe. It's a little bit of everything there,
Yep.
right? Move this back. Okay. There we go. So I did that a few years ago for consolidation reasons because I keep touching my face because I have like a stray here that is like caught on me or something and it keeps tickling me. It's been tickling. Here it is. I found it. It's a really long hair, so it's clearly not mine, but it's been tickling me the whole show. I used to have like a whole shelf for Star Wars and a whole shelf for G.I. Joe and for Motu. And I needed space. So what I said was, you know what? I'm just going to keep the core characters I need. I don't need every single character that came out for the line. I just want usually the ones that I really remembered enjoying as a kid. So for instance, G.I. Joe Classified. Crocmaster is an awesome figure. I never had that as a kid, so I didn't buy the Classified Crocmaster. Right?
Yep.
So that shelf allowed me to consolidate. I'm doing the same thing with all of these super cool not third party, but independent toy companies like Legends of Dragonor and Armies of Ashmore and Plunderlings and AWOC. All of those where I'm not going to buy them all. I'm not going to collect everything, but I want to support these amazing creators, and they're doing really fun, cool toys. So I'm getting really excited now because I'm starting to build a shelf that's got all of these, just like that shelf had a lot of variety. I'm starting to build that type of shelf for all these little independent toy lines.
That's cool. Yeah, I've got something similar in my garage is where I keep all like vintage stuff and kind of the one-offs and stuff like that. But for me, and I know I'm probably going to get some hate in the chat for this, but for me, my Armies of Ashmore and my Silverhawks are going to go along with my Cosmic Legions. They're going to be in there. They're all in the same world. In fact, my Silverhawks are going to be policing Cosmere.
Okay.
So
yeah. I got to ask you this then.
Yep.
I'm not a Silverhawks fan.
Yep.
Weirdly, totally my era. But as a kid, I never had a Silverhawks figure. Never had one. So that is a line that I don't feel I need to get from a nostalgic standpoint. I really am close to buying that Monstar, in part because it's totally Eric Treadaway. Eric Treadaway sculpted that figure. When that project came in, he was like, I want to do Monstar. Do you have the Super 7 Monstar yet?
I don't have. It's weird. Like Big Bad Toy Store, because they delayed Wave 1 and they released Wave 2, and then Wave 1 is now like if you go to Big Bad Toy Store, they've got 2 of them in, but the other 2 are not. Okay. So like you would think that they would just wait and ship everything together, but Monstar is available at Big Bad Toy Store right now, but I have not pulled the trigger yet.
And I literally, so Big Bad Toy Store has been killing me with these freaking 1-day sales.
Yep.
I get these emails. It's like 1-day sale, and I'm like, I go there and they have something that I've been waiting to pull the trigger on, and I'm like, oh, that's a good price. But the problem with their 1-day sales is you can't use pile of loot.
Correct.
You have to ship it right now.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, well, you know what? Let me buy this as well. So you know another thing that I got sucked into recently? Son of a gun. I'm not a huge Turtles guy either, right?
Yep.
My Turtles are Mirage Turtles. So forever, the only figures I had were the original NECA Mirage Turtles that Eric Treadaway sculpted. I had those in my collection, and I had a shredder from Mirage as well. And now they're doing all these Mirage figures. So when I was at Toylanta, I ended up picking up so I did have the Usagi, but someone down there whose name escapes me, he sold me the black and white Usagi, and he sold me the Triceraton. The Triceraton is awesome. So that completely ripped off the Band-Aid, and then I traded for a KC and a Fugitoid, and I just bought the Utrom off of Big Bad because I was buying something off the one-day sale, and I'm like, well, I might as well get the Utrom, or I
Yep.
might as well get Don as the Invisible Man because I'm got sucked into collecting those too. So I keep doing that, and Monstar was in my cart because I was already ordering stuff, and I'm like, ooh, I could have Monstar like quickly, and he looks awesome. He's big. I even went to YouTube and looked up some reviews, but I had strength, and I took him out of my cart for now.
Well, sometimes you got to have that strength, but I have not had that lately. Like I went down the road with the Mafex and Mezco. Like I got one Mezco Bishop, and then I started putting an entire X-Men team together with mixed Mezco and Mafex. So yeah.
Joe Gasapola, who has seen the Monstar prototype in the studio many times. I've seen him in the studio as well, but
Yeah.
says Monstar is massive. So I feel like I'm going to get sucked into it. You know, part of it though, too. Yeah, it was David that sold me that. Thank you, Dub. Part of the reason I'm always hesitant is like this weekend at Shop the Curiosity, I ended up buying this. So I bought this Boba Fett, which is the Boba Fett from the Droids cartoon.
Right.
I love Boba Fett, and this just looks ridiculous. So it was like $20, and I hate going to a toy show and not buying a toy. So
did you see the Mafex one that's on sale today, one day only on Big Bad Toy Store?
Oh yeah, it's just a regular Boba Fett. I have that already,
but it's pretty awesome looking.
It is. But see, that I'm good about. I don't need every single version.
Gotcha.
I've said before, I really want the Hot Toys vintage toy color version, but it's like $350, $400. So this was $20. Like this is a perfect thing to buy at a toy show and leave and be excited that I bought something. So that's one of my hesitations with Monstar is I feel like I'm going to see him at a show at some point. And that's a perfect thing to say, you know what, I'll buy that and go home with it.
Yeah, it's nice. Sometimes it's nice to get something in the wild and just feel like, you know, you're coming home with something.
Well, the thing too is a lot of times when I'm at toy shows, I'm in a hotel. So even something as simple as going back to the hotel room and I'm ready for bed and cracking open a toy and playing around with it while I lay in my hotel room bed. That's
absolutely. Like I used to in the summers, I would travel. My dad was a traveling salesman. He sold color for plastic. And so we would go on these business trips with him. And if we were good through the trip, they would buy us a toy from the store. And so, yeah, I mean, hanging out in the hotel room and playing with the toys brings back all kinds of nostalgic vibes for me. So I hear that 100%.
So David says, I have the Hot Toys animated next to the Kenner version. Yeah, if you're talking about the Hot Toys vintage one that that's exactly what I want to do. I don't have a Kenner Boba Fett, like an original one, like I had when I was a kid. But if I ever pull the trigger on that darn Hot Toys, that'll probably be the next thing I buy. I'll go to a show and I'll end up getting a vintage Fett to put right next to it because that's the exact display I want to do.
Yeah, I don't have Hot Toys money. I'll leave that to Trevor. He's in that Hot Toys game.
Yeah, I've never had one. I got rid of that scale a number of years ago and just went all 112. So I haven't really had like the desire to get any Hot Toys or any of those big ones, but that's the kind of figure where I feel like I could get just that one and be happy with it because I do genuinely. Boba Fett, ever since I was a kid, has always been my favorite. It's as cheesy as it is, always been my favorite Star Wars character. It was my favorite toy as a child. So just getting that one would work for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
So Curtis, before I let you go, anything else that you would like to plug tonight?
Yeah, once again, Off World this Friday. That's me, Jesse Arnold, Sean Scavarna, and Matthew Dooch. We're on there every Friday. We only our numbered episodes are every other Friday. The opposite week, we do what we call off week, off world, where we just kind of shoot the shit, so to speak. And then on Sundays, obviously, we got Shooting the Shelf with me and Jesse. This week on Shooting the Shelf, we've got a great diorama maker, which is Mista C. So if you see, he did like the big tavern where it's got like the inside and outside and stuff. And so hoping to pick his brain and get some tips on dio making. So, if anybody's interested, it's 9:00 Eastern both nights. So Friday night or Sunday, if you want to hang out, we're on YouTube. So
excellent. Sounds good. With that, I'm going to say good night to everyone. Curtis, hang out. I'm going to close everyone out with my little soundtrack here. I will be back next week. I got a special guest. I'm hoping to line up for next week, something extra special. I will see you then. Same Mythic time, same Mythic channel. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.